Lonely up here today. How are you doing? You doing all right? Loving life.
Out in advance next year.
All right. Well, hey, welcome everyone to our Monday, August the 12th, 2024 regular work session board meeting. I call the meeting to order and I call on our treasurer, Mr. Bertram, to please call the roll.
Mr. Moore?
Here.
Mrs. Schreiber?
Here.
Dr. Urso?
I'm here.
And Mrs. Snow is excused this evening.
Wonderful. All right. Could you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, our next agenda item is extremely exciting. It's the approval of our newest board member, Mrs. Verlena Stewart. Mr. Bertram, you got to remind me of any procedures that I need to go through here, or is it just a matter of taking a motion and a second and a vote?
That's correct, and she could not attend tonight's meeting, so we'll have her swear in at our next meeting, but she'll officially begin as a board member tomorrow.
Awesome. All right, with that being said, is there a motion to approve Verlena Stewart to join the Middletown Board of Education?
So move for approval.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Bertram?
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Schreiber?
Yes.
And Dr. Urso?
Yes. I'll just take 1 second and say how excited we are to again work with Ms. Stewart. We, as a team, had the privilege over the last few years to get to know Verlena quite well, and her involvement with CBI, her connections with the community, her thoughtfulness, her energy, charisma, all add to the conversation. And we're thrilled that she's willing to join us and be a part of the board again. And so, yeah, we'll be sure to thank her next meeting and welcome her back. Underneath that, it looks like we have an agenda to approve. Is there a motion for approval?
I only had one question about the agenda before we moved to vote about the success liaison. Could we have some discussion? Could we pull that and just have some discussion about that particular position?
We could have it without polling it as
Okay,
well.
okay, that's
Yeah.
fair enough. Okay.
All right.
So moved.
All right,
Yeah.
a second, please.
Second.
All right, then Mr. Bertram?
Mrs. Schreiber?
Yes.
Dr. Urso?
Yes.
And Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Motion carries. Under public participation, we do have a community member that would like to speak to us. I am honored to welcome Miss Mayor Elizabeth Slampka to speak to the board. Welcome. Thanks for joining us on your Monday evening.
Thank you so much. Is this on?
I don't think so.
No.
Okay, let me try it. Is it on? Okay.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. I'll just hold it. There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And my time has started?
Oh,
There
you
you
have
go.
time. You're good. Don't feel pressured.
Well, thank you very much. And I want to say good evening to everybody here this evening. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak with you. I am happy to say that tomorrow evening is an event at the City of Middletown in the council chambers, 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. We are welcoming the Peace Literacy Institute to Middletown. This is an event specifically for organizations like the schools, MPD, fire department, nonprofits, the YMCA, people that work with populations that might benefit from learning about these ways of speaking and dealing with big emotions to be able to have more peaceful and not less violent interactions with each other. So that can mean just in like a personal conversation with somebody, or it can mean like coming to fighting, right? Anything in between. So Mr. Chappelle, Paul K. Chappelle is his name, is a West Point graduate. He served in Iraq for 2 tours. He retired as a captain, and then he went to work for the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation. Through trauma in his own life, he by the time he was in high school, he developed a mass shooter tendency, ideations. He realized at a very young age that he had to do something about that, or else some bad things would happen. So he has spent his life working on this, looking to create vocabulary and frameworks to give people ways of handling these big emotions like rage, mistrust, alienation, aggression, fear, those kinds of things. And he has a curriculum through the Peace Literacy Institute for K through 12 and adult and beyond. It's for free online. He has also worked with police departments. He's in the Cleveland City Schools right now. He's been with them for 5 years. It sounds like they like it so much they want to expand to all of Northeast Ohio. But he's coming to Middletown because, as you know, we've been dealing with some of these issues over the past year. And we thought that this would be a great opportunity to introduce these organizations who work with populations to this kind of way of moving through the world. Because peace is not just saying, hey, everybody get along. It's an education, just like you need to learn how to read, you learn how to do math, you need to learn how to play basketball. You need a framework, you need practice. These are skills that we develop over time. And sometimes it can take more than like a lifetime. So that's an opportunity tomorrow. Like I said, it starts from 5:30 to 7:30. He is not able to come in person, so he will be on Zoom, but we will be meeting in council chambers. And this is really for organizations, like I said, to teach this to see if this is something that might help their own organizations and their staff, or to teach it forward to the populations that they work with. So I think it's a very great opportunity, and I wanted to make sure that you knew this information. So thank you very much. That's all for me tonight.
Could you repeat the name of the organization? I got peace, and then I was done after that.
Peace Literacy Institute. I call it PLI for short, so do they. And you can also look him up under Paul K. Chappelle, that's 2 P's and 2 L's, .com. You can learn more about him. He's written about 6 books, I believe. They're wonderful. But yes, you can find out more about him as well.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along, this is tonight's consent agenda. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second, please?
Second.
Questions, comments, things within the agenda, consent agenda that need to be highlighted?
Just one question about the success liaison. Just if you could just give us a little bit more information about that position itself, and just some background.
Sure. We've had success liaisons in the buildings for quite a while. Pre-COVID, we had 4 success liaisons in our buildings, and of course, they shared buildings if we had 4. During COVID and with our ESSER dollars, we were able to have 10 success liaisons, 1 per building, and we're moving back to 5. So once again, we're sharing. But with success liaisons, really they are liaisons to really social entities out in the community to help students really eliminate barriers for students coming to school. If students need help with clothing, they help remove the barriers for clothing. They help us with our poverty simulation. If students need help with food, they help with food. If families need help with paying bills, they need the resources. They're all the liaisons to the different community services.
Well, one of the reasons I brought this up is I was just trying to, with the salary itself, and I know that we've invested heavily in success liaisons for a number of years. I know my entire tenure, I think, on the board, we've had success liaisons. But as we look at the challenges in this coming year, particularly I've seen, I'm kind of concerned about some of our class sizes creeping up at this point, and I'm just trying to think, we talked about a technology audit, some of the redundancies and other things that were in the technology audit, and I'm just trying to put together in my mind some of the finances that we have. I'm just trying to think longer term, if we're managing for now, and this salary is, this is a teacher's salary, nearly a teacher's salary here. Not entirely, but a good chunk of it. But what I'm saying is that I'm just trying to look out into the future, because I am a little bit concerned at some of these classroom sizes. Particularly, we're talking a lot about trying to improve literacy in the district. And it seems to me that one of the most important parts is, at some point, we may need to look at whether or not we reduce class sizes as part of this plan. So We've got a lot of business partners at this point. I think it's 87 or more that's lined up.
There you
to-
go.
And again, I understand, moving to 5, but I'm just trying to think, we're going to be talking here about goals here soon. And I do have some concern about maybe looking at class sizes. And I'm not saying that we would be able to do this across maybe all buildings, but do we have priorities that we should focus on, or certain buildings that could be higher need? What I'm saying is I wish that we could have a broader conversations about this particular item, as opposed to me just saying, hey, I want to vote no on it tonight. I mean, I certainly think that they do a good job. I appreciate the work that all of them do. But, last year I think we invested $1 million in success liaisons, and I just think that we need to have a broader conversation about some of these financial pieces that need to be in place about really making a difference academically. And if we could just pause on this, is it necessary that this would have to come before us right now? I mean, because I'm really concerned about that. I've heard through my own resources that, even classroom sizes in 3rd grade at Wildwood right now is approaching 30 students. That's too much. 30 students in a classroom is ridiculous. I mean, we're at 28, 30 students, and this is just some of my sources on the street. So I'm just saying, there's no way that a teacher, even with an additional resource in that classroom, can manage 28 kids that all have disability or other issues, significant other issues in that classroom. We've got to think about that. So for me, it's a trade-off question. I'm just trying to think about that. I don't want to be negative about the success liaisons. I think they do a great job. I just wondered if we could kind of put that in a broader conversation about where we're going with those numbers. And I would welcome feedback from my colleagues and others on this question, certainly.
No, I think your points are justified. Again, the news in terms of class sizes, I know we haven't received any kind of that information. I don't know if you can justify or
Well,
verify.
I'm thinking about, I know we do have some pockets of high, but at this point in time, I'm not aware of anybody that's sitting that high. We watch enrollment, and we watch those numbers every single day. We do follow contract numbers. And we do, like I said, we watch those every single day. When it comes to the success liaison, like I said before, we've moved from 10 and we're moving down to 5.
That's true, but we spent $1 million last year. We spent $1 million. Well, we did. We spent nearly $1 million on success liaisons, and I mean, where we're at academically, we can't. I just feel like we're, if we're at 4 now and we spend $1 million and our progress has not progressed in the way that we would like, it's just does this investment really at this point make sense if we're looking at those numbers maybe creeping up? And I'm trying to really target resources in some of our buildings where we feel that they may need it the most.
If I could just inject on that, I'm not sure where the $1 million came from. These are social workers.
Right.
Social workers don't have high salaries. The
That's
contract
all there.
amount for these 5, our share is $75,618.
Well, I think it was $650,000 is what we invested, not $1 million, not $1 million. I'll correct that, but I think it was close to $650,000 last year.
And just so you know, 4 of them are through a grant where it's a 50-50. And then we're paying for 1 full-time out of this $76,000. These are people that usually don't take benefits, and so it's not, we can't compare it to a teacher's salary. It might be half of a teacher's salary for most of these people. But for our 5, it's going to cost us $75,000.
My perception of this as a teacher, but I have never worked with a success liaison as a classroom teacher, is that if the success liaison is not there to do these things, then I as a teacher have to do that. And that takes away from my work as an educator, which is what I'm supposed to be my main job there. So that's how I see the success liaison. Am I?
Or the teacher.
Yeah.
Or it's not done at all, or they don't come to school.
Yeah.
Right.
That's my perception of them. So, just like.
Or they do come to school and it's not done at all.
Right.
Yeah.
So whether you have 25 kids in a classroom or 28 kids in a classroom, it's a tough job. And when they come and they're not fed, or they don't have their shoes, or they don't have backpacks, and they don't have book bags, it's all, it's nice to be able to just have somebody you can go to and say, I need this.
Right.
And I appreciate that. Let me ask a question differently. What is the max class size within Middletown City Schools for a third grade classroom?
It is 30.
It's 30. So if we're approaching 27 at that point, I mean, what is threshold here at the point where we say, despite whatever plans we have in place for literacy, we're asking teachers with 27 kids to improve this district? I just don't think that's feasible. I think we're asking too much.
So that is the contract number, and I will say, Mr. Moore, believe it or not, we have last year, if you recall, Mayfield had very high numbers. And they had some of the best scores. Now, is it an easy job? Is it an easy year? It is not.
No, but
It is
I've
not.
served on the board now, I think, for what, 7 years? I've lost track at this point. But we've been talking at this point.
Yeah.
We have talked about literacy in this district our entire tenure together as a board. And I just think that whether this contract goes through or not, at some point, we're going to have to start thinking about financially, and we've never had this discussion, which it's going to come because I'm going to keep talking about it. I don't think that we're going to be able to have, year after year discussions about improving our status as a district academically without having a broader discussion financially about how we're going to move some of these numbers. And that has not been the case. So I'm concerned about that. For me, I want to fund the position. I think they do a great job, but I'm just saying if this costs me to where I can't look at a classroom that's struggling, that's where I'm having a hard time with it at this point. And this is something I've said, I think since I've been on the board, I've talked about success liaisons. I know when we got to 10, I thought that was a little much, and then now we're trying to move back to 5. It's just, I think that there's some ways that we probably could leverage some of our resources differently with our business partners to do similar work. I'm just really concerned about that classroom. I'm concerned about classroom size. I think we're asking our teachers to do the impossible. I don't think they're going to be able to turn those numbers. And then we're going to have a discussion next year about how we're working really hard to improve academic performance, and we're going to be exactly where we are, despite all the work. I think that's a factor that we're going to have to take seriously.
Do you know our total cost for success liaisons? I know you probably didn't prepare that. Do you have a rough?
It's $75,618 for these 5 is our cost.
So that's the total cost is $75,000 for 5 success liaisons.
It says for one. This is for one liaison. 75,000 for one.
For your
And-
full-time one.
Yeah, it says here for one additional liaison,
part-time.
65,000. It's 75,618. I know that we
For the full-time.
invested, I think, at least $650,000 last year.
That's the case.
Yeah,
I'll
because
look at
it's
that.
probably 15% benefits plus the salary is probably within this range here.
I'll take a look at that. I will get back. And also, I'll take a look at what we spent last year as a total.
Okay.
That's,
I don't want to belabor the question. I'm not trying to take over time. I'm just concerned about that. Look, I understand we need probably an additional liaison, but at the same time, those classroom sizes at that point, I know that we can argue repeatedly through the literature and otherwise whether or not classroom size matters. Spends time in a classroom, I think that 27 kids is pushing it. I just don't see how we're going to turn those numbers, not in Middletown City Schools. We've all been doing this work for a long time. I think we're fooling ourselves to think that we're going to have 27 kids in a classroom and we're going to somehow have higher academic performance with high-need kids. I just don't think that's possible.
This is what I will promise you, that literacy is number one.
I know, and I
Literacy,
believe that.
yep, literacy and our math foundations. Yep, number one and number 2.
Perhaps when things settle down at the beginning of the school year, and I know nothing is set until maybe October, November, maybe we could have a spread of like classroom sizes.
Enrollment
so
numbers?
we could see-
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, we track those every day.
yeah.
Well, could I propose this? Rather than voting on it tonight, could we go through, because we have some additional work that we need to do through goal setting with you,
Sure.
Superintendent Hauser, and I would just feel more comfortable if we could just talk about that a little broadly and where we're at with our enrollment numbers. Because I would vote no tonight if I was going to. And I want to be reasonable about what I'm trying to do here, but at the same time, I would like to see what some of those enrollment numbers are. I'm very strongly set on this idea that we have to start looking at some of those classroom sizes. I think we're asking for the impossible. I don't think it's going to happen.
I also wonder, when you talk about classroom sizes, you're assuming that the teacher is stuck in there with those kids all by herself, and that's
That's not
what's
the case.
happening.
Well, guys,
There's a lot of in and
it
out.
frankly doesn't matter. at this point. It doesn't matter if we have to start thinking about it differently. We're not making the progress that we need. And at some point, we're going to have to shift gears. I mean, we've been working on this for a number of years, and we've got initiative after initiative after initiative. And the one thing that we're not doing is we're not reducing some of the classrooms. And I think that's a discussion worthy of having, whether we accomplish that or not, whether there's board leadership here to do that or not. I know that we've had Success by Six, we've had nonprofits, we've had partners, we've had everything. Well, in the practical terms of changing literacy rates, what we've not had is smaller classroom to do all the additional things that are being done in the district. I think if you modeled that out, you probably would have a better outcome. But I think layering initiatives without changing some of those fundamental factors is probably not going to get us very far.
I don't disagree with Todd in terms of classroom numbers. I'm curious in terms of budget. I sat through the 5-year forecast to understand in terms of some of our numbers and how they look moving forward. Is there budget to consider some of these things? Is it an all or nothing kind of approach? And that's, I think, to your point in terms of a broader conversation regarding how we're allocating our funds on these types of things. Yeah, and I do remember talking to our prior superintendent about classroom sizes, and I recall being reminded multiple times that research shows that classroom size up to a certain amount doesn't matter. I always challenge that point because as an educator,
Yeah.
I know it's a lot of work when you have a lot of students, and one student can disrupt or change the dynamic of a classroom dramatically, and you increase the odds the more students you have that would happen. And so I've always been dubious of that research, but I'm curious in terms of if there's any new literature on classroom size and if there's a sweet spot in regards to fiscally being responsible, yet also allocating the appropriate funds to make sure our students have all the resources they need. With that being said, I don't disagree with Todd that those conversations do need to be had.
You know, that's a simple request. Mr. Moore, you're asking that we wait until the next meeting to hold off because we're going to have some further discussions. We can do that. That's just 2 weeks. We can hold off
Okay.
and
So-
have the vote in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
it's not just a vote. I mean, I want
Yeah.
to know at some point, and I would ask my colleagues for us, I know that every dollar counts. And what I'm trying to look at is financially, we're talking about looking at our technology and the redundancies there. I'm just trying to piece together some finances. I'm not saying that we're going to get there all the way, but are there areas, I don't think that we know as a board, are there a couple classrooms, are there a couple buildings that we are under-investing in or that we could make a difference in by bringing a couple new teachers on board? Is there something that could be done there? I don't think we're prepared to even answer that question. I don't think we are. And I think that's something that we need to engage in, and I feel like we would be moving together as a team if we were all on the same page with that particular question.
yeah.
I was going to say, there's a data story there
Yeah.
that, to be told.
And Chris, you asked me a couple questions, didn't know if they were rhetorical, if you wanted me to answer or not.
Yeah.
But we do, did I budget for additional teachers? No, because it's something
Yeah.
we haven't spoke about on the broader sets. But if you recall, we have kept on quite a few of those ESSER positions.
Correct.
We definitely have flexibility with what we're doing with those positions to change course and go another route if we need to. But, those are on a 2-year limit, then we have to look beyond those 2 years on what we continue to do.
All right.
For the majority of those ESSER positions that were devoted to reading or literacy.
And so if I,
So are you saying this is funded out of the ESSER fund at this point? Is that where, I didn't think that it
No.
was.
No, ESSER funds terminating. This is one that we evaluated, and we said we can't keep all 10 of them. We decided to keep 5 of them. And it was very high on the principal's list, if I
yeah.
recall, to maintain these positions at a 1 per building. And we
Right.
cut that down to a half per building.
yeah, and I mean, not to bring up it's a different topic, but it's the same topic. We're investing in transportation, and we've gone to a project that is significantly bigger than maybe what we could have. And so when these conversations come up, I look at it through that lens on how is it that we're allocating our funds? Are they being distributed towards the most good for the most students? It's not to say that what we're doing in transportation isn't valuable to our district, but does it impact the student lives and their opportunities in the same way that a social worker would, or a smaller class size would, and those kinds of things. And so those conversations and justifying those things and understanding the budget and how we have those things allocated, I think is extremely useful. And so for this point, I guess there would be a motion to pull this from the
Table it, yes.
to table it. All right, is there a motion to table the Butler County ESC for Success Program, adding one liaison from the consent agenda?
I would move that we table.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Do we need to vote for that? Again, this is new territory. We don't do this a lot.
No, we don't.
All right, so there you go.
Have to transcribe everything to get it in the record. Mrs. Shiver?
Yes.
Dr. Urso?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
All right. So was there anything else regarding that, or we can move that to the next time
We
we
can
bring this
move.
back
We can
up?
move
We can
forward.
move that back to the next one, all right. Was there other items within the consent agenda? I know that there's another contract on with the ILO group redesign planning. Unfortunately, I wasn't at our last meeting where we were able to, as a board, understand a lot is going on. I just wanted to comment on that it seems like a lot of the ideas have been well received, a lot of excitement around that. And this contract, if you can just remind the board, is for continuing that work and professional development and making sure that that transition is successful.
Correct. This is for Phase 3. So this is for the actual professional development. So we've been doing quite a bit of the planning over the past year and a half, and now we're ready. And matter of fact, this is getting ready to start this week. The professional development that we've been promising the teachers that was coming for them. For the pilots that are getting ready to roll out this year, September through October, and then again in January and February, for them to really guide them through experiential learning and how the pilot and the scheduling is going to change for them on Wednesdays and Thursdays during the week. Also, this is for data collection and really pulling together the data and what the teachers learned through the pilots and how we're going to use what we learn to inform what we're going to do in 25, 26 with high school redesign. So it's really the next stage of high school redesign. And it's the whole school moving along together.
Good. Other questions on the consent agenda prior to a vote?
No.
Thanks for that, Ms. Hauser.
Yep.
Mr. Bertram, I think we're ready to vote.
We didn't get a motion or a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. So moved.
Second.
All right. Dr. Urso?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Shiver?
Yes.
All right, under HR, there is a Personnel Agenda B. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
In a second, please?
Second.
Thanks, Todd. I'm assuming that my brother Steve
Yep.
is
Mhm.
on
Home
that.
instructor.
The home instructor on that. And so, understanding that we have so few board members here tonight, is this something that we can still vote on?
I believe so. As long as we have 3, we need a majority of 2.
Okay.
But I will double check that because that is a great question.
That is a good
I'll come back
question.
next time if
I don't think you
not
can.
allowable. I don't have my cheat sheet.
But I'm not sure.
3 minutes. Yeah.
All right.
But
We can do it, and if it's
Yeah.
not, we'll do it again.
Yeah, Steve's fine.
Yeah. He'll still do it.
Yeah, he will. All right. Did I take a motion in a second already on that?
You did.
All right.
All
Getting
right,
confused on
Mr.
my...
Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Shiver?
Yes.
And Dr. Urso?
Abstain. So you'll check on that and let us know if we need to vote again on that one?
Absolutely.
We get paid extra for voting twice on something like that? All right, now moving into a discussion item, associate principal job description and salary schedule change. I'll turn it over to Ms. Hauser to give us a description on this.
So this is an update. We've had this job description and salary schedule in the past, and it's an update. Associate principal is somewhat like the assistant principal, but they carry a little bit of additional duties than the assistant principal. For instance, at the high school, they oversee an additional school, for instance, like Mid-State. So it's updating the job description. So you will see Mid-State added to the job description, and also we've added high school redesign to that job description. The salary schedule change is the associate principal assumes additional duties. So the job, the salary schedule, there's an additional 3% on top of the assistant principal salary. So that's what you see. So it's just updating the job description and salary schedule.
Questions regarding this?
I only briefly read this before the meeting, so just to clarify, is this person, would they also be at Mid-State as the assistant principal? Is that what we're saying there?
They're over, right, they're overseeing Mid-State and they have duties at the high
Right,
school.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, okay, very good.
I know the person who this, and I know that she has been in our district a long time, works very well with Mrs. Cotter and the staff there, and is an asset to our district. Every encounter I've had with her is extremely professional, and I know when Ms. Cotter's out of the building doesn't miss a beat because Ms. Bowman
Yeah.
is there to serve the school. So,
Just a first read, yeah.
first read
Just a
on that.
first read, right.
All right. Under business tonight, we do have an action item. It is Middletown Stadium paving. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second, please?
Second.
Thanks, Todd. Thanks, Anita. Mr. Bertram, do you want to fill us in on the nitty-gritty on this, or Mrs. Hauser?
Yep. So we are adding 28 handicap spots at Barnett's. So we were short a few. We were found out of compliance, so we're adding it, 28 parking spots to the tune of $82,567. They should be finished by the time we have our first football game. Do you know where the handicap spots are now? They're going to be right where the handicap parking is right now. We'll just have 28 new spots with a sidewalk that enters right in by the gate. We'll be good to go.
All right. When games aren't going on, will other people park in those spots, or is it entirely reserved for those folks with the placard that identify?
Well, it's marked for handicap, so handicap should be parking in the handicap
Yeah.
spots.
Yeah.
We know how that works.
Yeah.
Who determines how many handicap spaces you have to have?
Well-
Is there a number of seats in the stadium?
There are people that come out and determine how many spots you should have. So they looked at the number of seats in the stadium, the occupancy, the area around the stadium.
Paving
Yeah,
companies do.
yeah, and that too. Yeah,
Okay,
but
thank
we'll
you.
be good to go.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, comments, anything? Then Mr. Bertram.
All right, Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Schreiber?
Yes.
Dr. Urso?
Yes. Next item on the agenda is a lease agreement between the Performing Arts Academy and Middletown School District. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second, please.
I just have a question about this particular contract. Now, part of the investment in the $10 million garage that we invested in, is this is buying us some time? Is that what we're doing here? Is there no other alternative than investing the $40,000 at this point? This is it?
This is it.
Okay, it's
Get all that,
unfortunate.
move it,
Yeah.
remove it, I think would
Yeah.
be
I'm sure this will
probably-
set really well with Dr. Urso on this vote
Yeah.
tonight, so.
I asked the same question.
Okay, okay. Well, I will make a,
And I did look, there is a clause, you know, we
Yeah.
have to get into that next year. Takes us a little longer to finish the project, that we can give a 30 or 60 day and be out of it, so.
okay,
And we won't have to go a whole another year if we extend beyond this year.
okay. I'll make a second.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any comments beyond the obvious?
I don't know.
Yeah. All right, then Mr. Bertram.
Mrs. Schreiber?
Yes.
Dr. Urso?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Motion carries. All right, last item before committee reports is a school resource officer SRO contracts. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Todd. Thanks, Anita. Ms. Hauser, anything to describe, report on in regards to these contracts?
So we've been working with the city right, to, once again, through, ESSER dollars coming to an end, we had to renew and really rethink how we used our SROs in the buildings. So we came to an agreement with the city where we would have 5 SROs, but we would have them only while school was in session. So we had, in the past, we'd had 3 full-time SROs, but moving forward, they're proposing that we have SROs while we are in school. Working with the city also, though, they've agreed that they would take care of Safety Town over the summer, and then some of the compliance work that we needed to do with the city over the summer, they would take care of. So we would be paying for the services that we would be using. So it pretty much, the contract, what you see in front of you, would negate the contracts that we had in place before, and then we'd be moving forward with a brand-new contract with 5 SROs, 75% of their time. And then during the summer, those 5 will go back out on the streets.
Is there, I know that we have police officers who work our events. Is that included within this, or is that something that is added on?
Added up.
It's additional.
It's additional to that.
Mhm.
Okay. And I guess also the dollar amount, I know it is impacted by the number of people, but using kind of a ratio, is it inflated significantly, 5%, 10%, or is it pretty consistent over time?
No, it's supposed to be at cost, and the number you see there isn't an exact amount for the contract, because they'll true up it at the end of each year based on the 5 resource officers with their salaries, what
What they
training they
make.
actually had to use, and/or any equipment they may have to purchase for their jobs.
All right. And just one last comment. I know that I don't know all of the folks that are SROs, but the ones I do know,
They're
they do a
awesome.
nice job connecting with our students. They coach in our district.
Mhm.
They're involved with our students. And so it's nice to have that relationship. So
Yeah, they do a great job.
questions, comments? Mr. Bertram?
All right. Dr. Urso?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Shug?
Yes.
It's round
All right.
robin's going on. For
I know, right? There's only 3 of us tonight. That leads us to committee reports. Any reporting from our
Mm-mm.
committees this evening?
No.
Ms. Hauser?
No.
Anything? Nothing? All right. Then
No.
moving on to Board of Education reports and activity. And Mr. Moore, anything to report tonight?
I would just say congratulations once again to Verlina. She joins us back. I'm sure she'll pick up right where she left off. It hasn't been that long. And we'll continue to move forward and do our best for the district.
Thank you.
And I agree with him. I look forward to having Verlina back. She's wonderful to work with. I think she has a unique perspective
Yes.
on the children of this town.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's all.
Just a couple things. I would like to welcome people back into our buildings. I drive by the high
Mhm.
school and
Yeah.
and other buildings in our community, and I see cars in the parking lot. I see people with good suntans, hopefully that are rejuvenated, to walk back in. And to our students who are nervous, first day jitters, I wish them the best year, and to their families. I hope they look to the board as being receptive for good news and always not good news. And so reach out, and we'll do our best to listen and hopefully help solve problems, not create them. And so with that, excited for this year, appreciate our administrative staff, appreciate our principals, and appreciate our students and our teachers who are working really hard for our community. Like them, thrilled to have Verlina back up here joining us. It'll be nice to have her back in the fray. And then one last just comment. It's come to my attention that at the last city council meeting that we were brought up in that conversation. Just want to clear the air. I know that our friends downstairs are our friends, and that it's important to work together, and sometimes information can be lost in translation. I know that the Sunny Hill Center has come up a variety of different times, and from our vantage point, my vantage point, I sat on that committee. where we started and where that whole process led, numbers were different. And our priority to serve Middletown kids, and you've identified this, is around preschool. And we were able to solve a lot of those issues and serve our kids in preschool. And so within that whole debate, we were governed by different rules, and our ESSER dollars were different than other funds. And that's important to know, because it's personally an affront to not look at it that way. We care deeply about our kids, and we care deeply about our community, and do appreciate the work that City Council is doing to serve our community, and look forward to working with them in that vein. And appreciate having Verlena at the table, who is on the ground floor of the work at the Sunny Hill Community Center. And so she's important to be a part of that conversation too. And welcome to City Council it's nice to have our mayor here tonight, but I welcome those members to engage in conversations with us too. Would like to speak with them if they have questions or concerns, to speak to us directly in those ways too. That's all I have tonight. Mr. Bertram, anything to add?
Yeah, I'd just like to add to that a little bit, Dr. Urso, and just let council know, my door's open, not just for staff and community members, but any council member, if they ever have any questions or concerns about our finances, I ask that they ask me directly and not look at a Facebook post to get their information. It's usually a little different than the real information. And I too look forward to meeting some of the new council members and having a working relationship with them. I spent 3 years working on that project as well. Mr. Stiles and I, we worked very hard, and we were just as disappointed as everyone else when the clock ran out. And but you know, we had to move on. We don't have the extra 2 years that the city has to spend those dollars. So I just hope the council members understand that we'll look at it in a new light, knowing that. And I can't believe summer's over. I mean, we're just sitting here saying, have a great summer, kids and teachers, and here we are. You know, I've got 11 grandkids, which 10 of them are starting school this week or next week, and more than half of them are excited. Not so much. So I know I'm excited. We're busy as all can be up here, seeing the enrollment that's going on up here. I don't think it's been this busy until after the pandemic, when we had a lot of people that unenrolled and then re-enrolled. So it's going to be interesting to see what our numbers are in the upcoming year, but we're all excited, ready to go. And to the sports team, I already made it to a football game, not to a middies. They haven't scrimmaged yet, but I made it watch one of my nephews play ball, and I'm excited, and I'll be out there this year, hopefully more than last year, but I'm excited.
That's great.
Okay, many welcome back. So Verlene, I don't know if you're watching. She could be, right? She could be. Welcome back. We can't wait to see you. Shoot, 2 times a month for sure at the table. Also, our principals came back last week, and all of our administrators. We kicked off last week with an administrators retreat. We had Mayor Slamka join us there also, so shout out to you. All of our teachers, today was their first day, so welcome back to all of our staff, teachers, classified personnel, so welcome back to them. Tomorrow is our district picnic, so can't wait to have everyone together. That doesn't happen very often, where we have everyone in the district together. Sometimes we forget, we have, close to 900 people. That's quite a few. A lot of times people, they get in their one school and they forget we are 900 strong. That's quite an organization that takes all of us to make it all happen. Also want to give a big shout out to everyone that worked so hard over the summer to get our buildings ready, our grounds ready. What everybody thinks over the summer that not much is happening. It's like, that is so not true. It just looks a little bit different over the summer. The work's a little bit different, but a big shout out to everyone that worked over the summer for everyone returning. So welcome back, everyone. And students, they come back on Monday. So that's that best part. We can't wait to see you. It's very quiet around here when the students aren't here. So welcome back to everybody.
Thank you. All right, with that being said, is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
You guys been on your game on the motions on the second.
We are.
I appreciate that.
We had a plan.
Mr. Bertram?
All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
We're adjourned.